I vividly recall the distinct sound of my mother-in-law Janet's heels striking the hardwood floor as she approached Mike, my husband. The dining room was enveloped in the delicious scent of lasagna, a dish I'd meticulously prepared in hopes of winning her approval. Morning sickness at 6 weeks was relentless, yet I had disclosed the pregnancy to no one. My stomach churned as the tension rose. As Janet placed a hand on Mike's shoulder, she leaned in to whisper something, instantly transforming his expression from calm to furious. The warm, loving eyes I cherished turned icy as he demanded to know if it was true, jumping to his feet so swiftly that his chair scraped harshly on the floor. Before I could utter a defense, his hand swung unexpectedly, the slap sending me staggering into the wall, my cheek ablaze. Tears blurred my vision as I unsuccessfully fought back nausea, ultimately succumbing in front of both of them. Mike recoiled in revulsion, yet froze upon noticing my open purse on the floor with a positive pregnancy test partly visible. The revelation drained all color from his face as he struggled to ask, "Sarah, are you touching my burning cheek?" Tears streamed down as I confessed, "Yes, I'm pregnant. I plan to share the news tonight, which is why I prepared your favorite meal." The ensuing silence was suffocating. Mike looked from the pregnancy test to his hand, horrified at what he'd done to his expectant wife. Janet stood silent, her stoically painted lips barely concealing her shock. In a shaky breath, Mike uttered, "Oh my God, Sarah." He's reaching towards me, but I instinctively drew back. At that heart-wrenching moment, I realized that the promise of love and protection he made now felt empty after hitting me while I carried his child. Contemplating my next move, I had to consider whether I could ever trust him again, forgive him, or risk staying with someone who could potentially harm me and our baby. The sound of our neighbor Emma entering heightened the tension. I heard shouting, she noted, eyes taking in the scene, from Mike's guilty demeanor to my reddened cheek and Janet's stern stance. Her question of "Is everything all right?" hung unanswered, knowing full well that it wasn't and wouldn't be for quite some time. Flashback to our first meeting. It was a Friday morning at Carter's coffee shop in downtown Austin. As a third-grade teacher, I was engrossed in grading papers during the weekend. The accidental spill of coffee by Mike on my students' homework made me laugh. His clumsy attempts to dab them dry with napkins were endearing. Apologetically, he offered to make amends over coffee or dinner. Our relationship kicked off seamlessly. Mike was everything I envisioned: successful yet humble, humorous yet accountable, and gazed at me as if I were the most intriguing person he ever encountered. Our first year together was picturesque. We invested in a quaint house with a yard, discussed parenthood aspirations, and leisurely crafted future plans. However, with Janet's abrupt move-in, prefaced as temporary due to a tough divorce, our dynamic shift began. Tempting understanding was imperative, yet Janet's presence made me feel inadequate within my own home. Critiquing my housekeeping, cooking, and care for Mike became habitual. His demeanor shifted gradually. Critiques emerged on trivialities, from my folding methods to meal preparations, to my phone conversations with my sister, each seemingly triggered by whispered maternal consultations. Upon discovering my pregnancy 3 weeks prior, fear overshadowed elation. Concealed morning sickness with fabricated excuses and hidden fatigue marked my days. I yearned to share the news with Mike before Janet interjected her unsolicited advice. On the night where confrontation surged, my pre-planned dinner with all Mike's favorite elements was suddenly overshadowed by Janet's insistent attendance. Under the guise of family bonding necessity, inadvertently eavesdropped as she conversed on the phone. I was aware that something was being concealed. She had been running to the bathroom at odd hours. Was she having an affair? Mike deserved more than that. As I placed the lasagna in the oven, my hands trembled. Was an affair what she whispered to Mike at dinner, causing him to quickly assume the worst about me? Standing now in our dining room, with Emma witnessing the aftermath, I felt the burden of every erroneous belief, every whispered falsehood, and every moment I stayed silent to maintain peace. My hand moved protectively to my stomach. The child within me deserved better. I deserved better. "Sarah," Mike approached again, voice breaking, "please let me explain." But Emma had already taken hold of my shoulders, declaring firmly, "She's coming with me, and you best not stop her." As Emma guided me out of the house, Janet's voice followed, saying, "Mike, darling, she's hysterical. You know how women can be in her condition." The door closed behind us, muffling Janet's words, but the damage had already been wrought. My perfect life shattered in one evening. leaving me uncertain of how to piece it back together. The next days at Emma's were a haze of tears, nausea, and countless missed calls from Mike. Emma, bless her, handled everything, retrieving clothes from my house, arranging sick leave, and providing comfort during morning sickness. "Your house isn't a home anymore, Sarah," she said, passing me a cup of ginger tea. "Things have been deteriorating over the past 6 months. We've all noticed." I clasped the mug, recalling the changes since Janet moved in, rearranging my kitchen, commenting on my weight, but most devastating was her influence on Mike. "Remember last month?" Emma gently reminded me, when Mike skipped my sister's wedding because Janet claimed she was too anxious to be alone. I nodded, the familiar pain in my chest returning. He didn't even question it, making excuses to my sister while Janet smirked. Messages from Mike and Janet flooded my phone, a broken record of apologies and manipulation. 1 week post-incident, at my first prenatal appointment, Emma held my hand as the doctor confirmed I was 6 weeks along, and the sound of my baby's heartbeat filled the room, strong and steady. Years of mixed joy and sorrow flowed as Mike was missing this monumental moment. "Want me to record it?" Emma asked, and I nodded silently. That evening on Emma's guest bed, I promised not to contact Mike, but the heartbeat changed something. With trembling resolve, I texted him the recording and wrote simply, "Your child's heartbeat." His response was immediate, pleading to talk in person without his mother. Reflecting in Emma's mirror, the bruise fading, I questioned my resolve. Another text came from Janet, outraged at my audacity to involve Mike without consulting her. Something within me snapped after years of silence. I responded assertively, "You are not included in decisions regarding my baby. Never have been, never will be," then blocked her number. Minutes later, Mike called, revealing Janet's deception. "She told her friends you had an affair. She made it up, Sarah, and I believed her lies." "I hit you because of them," he confessed, voice breaking. I found strength in my voice. "You need to choose, Mike. Your mother moves out, or I will return. If not, I'll consult a lawyer about full custody. I refuse to raise our child in a home with violence." Silence ensued, stretching so long I thought he'd hung up. Finally, he proposed, "Can you meet me tomorrow at Carter's coffee shop, where we first met? Mom will be there. I promise." I glanced at my still flat stomach, carrying our future, and whispered, "Okay, tomorrow at 2. But Mike, if she appears, I'm finished completely." "She won't," he vowed. "I choose you, Sarah. I should have chosen you all along." Ending the call, skepticism lingered, yet for our child's sake I resolved to try. I got up, leaving my spot next to Carol, to face what lay ahead. In order to make it easier for an emergency exit, I picked a table near the entrance, my heart pounding from the once comforting aroma of coffee beans that now unsettled my stomach. Carter's coffee shop seemed strangely different that day as I arrived 15 minutes early. Across the street, Emma was parked and ready to step in if needed. As the clock struck 2:00 exactly, Mike walked in alone, just as he had said he would. His appearance was haggard, with unkempt facial hair and dark circles around his eyes, wearing the same blue button-down shirt from the night of the incident. My body tensed up at his approach, but he paused a few feet away, acknowledging my space. "May I sit?" he asked gently, and I nodded, observing as he settled across from me, his gaze briefly fixed on my abdomen before he looked away with shame. "I threw her out last night," he blurted without prelude. "She's staying at a hotel now." I wrapped my hands around my untouched tea. "Just like that," I commented. "No," he confessed. "She screamed, cried, and accused me of abandoning her, claiming I was choosing you." "I can't even repeat what she called you," he said, swallowing hard. "I packed her bags and told her I'd call the cops if she didn't leave." Couples at neighboring tables cast brief glances our way. Lowering my voice, I asked, "Why now, Mike? Why not after all the previous times?" His voice cracked as he replied, "Because I became her. When I hit you, I became everything I despised about her: controlling, violent, quick to assume the worst." Roughly wiping his eyes, he continued, "The sound of your head hitting the wall replays in my mind, and then seeing that pregnancy test." He fought back a sob as the barista called out an order, causing me to jump. Mike noticed and winced at my reaction. "I'm scared of you," I admitted quietly. "You understand that? I'm carrying your child, and I'm scared of you." "You should be," he whispered. "There's no excuse for what I did. But Sarah, please believe me, it won't happen again." "I'm starting therapy tomorrow," he explained, I've already had my first consultation. I need to understand why I allowed her to control me, and why I became this person I don't recognize. I took a shaky breath. I have non-negotiable conditions, Mike. Leaning forward, he asked anything. Janet never enters our home again. No holidays, no visits, nothing. She receives no information about the baby, no photos, no updates, nothing. Done, he said instantly. You must continue therapy. We'll also do couples counseling, and if you ever raise a hand to me again, I'm gone. No discussions, no second chances. I'll press charges and seek full custody, I declared, my fingers clenching into a fist. I understand, he acknowledged, pulling out his phone and showing me an email. I've already found a couples counselor, he added, sliding a business card across the table. This is my lawyer. I've asked her to draft papers granting you full custody if I ever become violent again even once. My hand trembled as I picked up the card. You're serious about this? I love you, Sarah. I love our baby, and I despise what I've done, he said, looking down at his hands. Hearing that heartbeat made me realize I was becoming a father who instilled fear, the kind I never wanted to be. We sat in heavy silence, filled with unspoken fears and hopes. Finally, I broke the silence. I'm not coming home today, I said. I need time, and we start with couples counseling first. He nodded, visibly relieved. Can I? Would it be all right if I attended the next doctor's appointment? For the first time since the awful night, I felt a tiny flicker of hope. Yes, I replied, but Emma comes too. Of course, he agreed quickly, whatever you need to feel safe. As we sat there with afternoon light streaming through the coffee shop windows, I realized we were at a crossroads. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with therapy sessions and rebuilding trust, but at least now there was a path. Following 2 weeks became a careful dance of boundaries and tentative progress. Mike attended his therapy sessions twice weekly, sending me photos of his check-ins at the therapist's office. Under the guidance of Dr. Martinez, our couples counselor, we began to rebuild mainly through supervised sessions where we learned to communicate effectively, free from Janet's toxic influence. But Janet wasn't staying quiet. Mike, your mother's outside my classroom again, I texted him one Tuesday morning. Through the window, I could see her sitting in her silver Mercedes, watching the school entrance. Third graders were at recess, but my hands shook as I typed. His response was immediate. Don't move, I'm calling the police. 15 minutes later, I watched through my classroom window as 2 officers approached Janet's car. She portrayed the perfect victim, tears, trembling hands, just a concerned mother worried about her son's marriage. But when they told her to leave, her mask slipped. She's poisoning my son against me, she screamed loud enough for me to hear through the closed windows. My classroom aide, Susan, placed a protective hand on my shoulder. Want me to film this? She whispered, might be useful for that restraining order you mentioned. I nodded, grateful for her quick thinking. That evening during our counseling session, Mike broke down when I showed him the footage. I had never seen it previously, he mentioned, his voice hollow. She behaved exactly as she did when our father left, screaming, making baseless accusations, playing the victim. I turned to Dr. Martinez with a pained expression. I had always trusted her version of events. The cycle of abuse is powerful through generations, Dr. Martinez stated gently. However, Mike, each time you choose Sarah and your child over your mother's manipulation, you're breaking the cycle. Later that week, we attended another prenatal appointment. Emma drove me, while Mike followed in his vehicle as part of our new safety measures. During the ultrasound, the technician highlighted our baby's tiny form on the screen. For the first time since the ordeal, Mike reached for my hand, and I allowed him to take it. Would you like to know the gender? The technician inquired. Mike looked at me with curiosity, and I nodded. It's a girl, she smiled. A girl. Instinctively, my free hand moved to my stomach protectively. When I looked at Mike, I realized he was thinking the same thing. Our daughter would never experience fear in her own home. Later that evening, as we were leaving the clinic with Emma by my side, we found Janet waiting in the parking lot. Before I could react, Mike stepped in front of us. Leave, he stated firmly, or I'll contact the authorities again. I have a right to know about my granddaughter. Janet's voice rose hysterically. She must have been listening through the clinic walls. No, you don't. Mike's voice was firm and unwavering. You forfeited that right when you made me hurt her mother. Janet's face twisted with anger. I never forced you to do anything. She's turning you against me just like your father. Emma interrupted, phone in hand, and said security is on their way and instructed to involve the police immediately. As security approached, Janet backed towards her car, but not before yelling, "This isn't over, that's my grandbaby." That night in Emma's guest room, I finally allowed myself to break down. Mike sat outside my door on the floor. We weren't ready for him to stay over yet, but he refused to leave me alone after Janet's appearance. "I filed for a restraining order," he said softly through the door, "for all three of us, you, me, and the baby. Our lawyer believes we'll get it with the school video and clinic incident." I pressed my hand against the door, feeling his presence on the other side. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for everything I put you through, for every time I didn't protect you, each time I chose her." "I know," I responded gently. "But Mike, I need you to understand something." "Anything," he replied. "I'm not doing this for us. I'm doing it for her." I touched my growing belly. "She deserves better than what we had." He agreed. "Yes, she does, and I promise, Sarah, she'll have that. We'll give her everything we never had: safety, trust, love without conditions." For the first time in weeks, I believed him. A week later, the restraining order was granted, renewable for 3 months based on behavior. Seeing it in writing, Janet Matthews must maintain a distance of at least 500 feet made it feel real. We were doing this. Mike and I continued with individual therapy sessions, meeting twice a week for couples counseling with Dr. Martinez. Slowly and painfully, we began to unpack years of manipulation and control. During one session, Dr. Martinez asked Mike, "Tell me about the first time you noticed Janet's influence altering your behavior." He ran a hand through his hair, reflecting. 2 months after our wedding, Sarah prepared a wonderful birthday dinner for me, but Mom had already surprised me with lunch. She knew about the dinner since Sarah had mentioned it. When I returned home, she expressed concern about Sarah wasting money on costly ingredients as she'd already fed me. "And what did you do?" Dr. Martinez prompted. He said, remorsefully looking at me. "I complained about the dinner, saying we should be more cautious with spending. Sarah had used her teaching salary for those ingredients." Yes, Sarah often criticized, and I began to agree with her that David wasn't the type to make poor decisions like this. I recalled that night vividly, discarding the entire meal while crying in the kitchen as Mike and Janet watched TV in the living room. "Old patterns are deeply rooted," Dr. Martinez pointed out, but acknowledgement is the first step towards change. By my 5th month, we felt ready for me to move back home. Emma helped me pack, still uncertain. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, folding my maternity clothes. "No," I admitted, "but I need to try for her." I touched my growing belly. The house seemed different when I returned. Janet's belongings were gone: her photographs, decorative plates, and the passive-aggressive sticky notes about cleaning. Mike had repainted the walls in soft shades of yellow and green colors we selected together for the nursery. "I got rid of the dining set," he mentioned quietly, "and bought a new one. I didn't want you to face the table every day." The new table was crafted from warm oak, a stark contrast to Janet's formal mahogany. No hierarchy, no head of the table where she used to preside. Instead, we established new routines. Mike would message before coming home, giving me time to prepare for his arrival. We cooked together instead of letting me handle all meals. Every decision concerning the baby was made jointly, with no outside input. The first test came at 7 months. Janet sent a baby gift to my school. An exquisite silver rattle was given with a note saying family heirlooms cannot be kept away by legal orders. Mike immediately handed it to our lawyer, Shaq. "She's testing limits," he remarked, emphasizing that her watchful eyes remained on us. Legally, the rattle was returned with a stern warning against breaching the restraining order. That night, while Mike embraced me as I sobbed, I murmured, "What if she never stops? What if our daughter must constantly look over her shoulder?" "We will protect her," Mike assured me confidently. "Every single day, I promise. I will fail her as I failed you." Dr. Martinez assisted us in crafting a comprehensive safety strategy, which included passwords for daycare pickups, security cameras installed in our house, and a list of trusted contacts that could assist during emergencies. As my due date came closer, we encountered another obstacle: the hospital birth plan. Janet had somehow learned about the hospital I'd registered at. "We need to change hospitals," Mike said, revealing his mother's message obtained through his cousin. "She's already attempting to gather details from the maternity ward." We registered anew under Emma's address, ensuring every staff member was informed of the restraining order. The measures felt drastic, but witnessing Mike take these steps for our safety gradually rebuilt my trust in him. "You're doing the work," said Dr. Martinez during one of our final sessions before my due date, "both of you. That's what's important." As we glanced around our renovated home, the nursery we together crafted, and that the man Mike was becoming independent of his mother's influence. I felt something I hadn't felt in months: peace. Labor commenced at 2:00 a.m. on a serene Tuesday. Mike immediately contacted Emma, and then we executed our prepared plan: hospital bag ready, car seat in place, security cameras reviewed, no sight of Janet's Mercedes nearby. The delivery room was tranquil, a stark contrast to the chaos I had feared. Mike remained at my side, holding my hand, whispering words of encouragement, as Emma stood as our self-appointed guardian by the door. After 12 intense hours of labor, our daughter, Lily Grace, arrived, announcing her presence with cries. "She's perfect," Mike whispered tearfully, marveling at how much she resembled me. I cradled Lily, examining her tiny features. My dark hair, Mike's nose, 10 flawless fingers and toes. She was everything we had fought for, everything we had protected. Unexpectedly, our first test came quickly. A flower delivery for my first granddaughter, Lily, was intercepted by Mike before reaching our room. The attached card read, "Blood is thicker than water. She'll need her grandmother soon enough." Mike showed me the card instead of hiding it, tearing it up with resolve. "No more secrets," he said. "We face everything together now." The hospital heightened security patrols, and Emma's partner, Tom, a police officer, volunteered to safeguard us outside our door during the nights. We were surrounded by protection, by people empathetic to our safety needs. Coming home felt unlike what I envisioned during pregnancy. Mike had installed new security measures, updated cameras and locks, additional lighting all around the house. Inside, it was just us, our small family of 3. "Welcome home, Lily," I softly spoke, bringing her into the nursery we had lovingly crafted. The room, with its gentle hues and shelves of books and plush toys, felt like a cocoon of safety nurtured by both of us. The initial weeks blurred with midnight feedings and diaper duties as Mike took extended paternity leave, demonstrating his commitment to be fully present. Unshackled from Janet's critical presence, we defined our parenting approach. At Lily's 1-month doctor visit, our pediatrician assured us she's thriving. "Whatever you're doing, continue it." That evening, seated in the nursery with Lily peacefully sleeping in her crib, Mike took my hand. "I saw Mom today," he uttered quietly. "Where?" I asked. "At the grocery store, picking up more diapers." My heart froze. "What happened?" I queried. She attempted to engage with me, inquiring about Lily. He responded, his grip steadfast. I walked away, called security, followed our prepared protocol. Releasing a held breath, I questioned him. "And how do you feel?" "Sad," he confessed, but resolute. "Our daughter will never experience such a toxic love, the kind characterized by pain and control. She will know only genuine affection." Hearing down at Lily, I acknowledged his truth. We had broken the cycle. Our home resonated with a vibrant love that safeguarded instead of dictated, nurtured instead of oppressed. As Lily softly stirred, emitting delicate baby murmurs that melted our hearts, Mike and I remained seated, our hands intertwined. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" I asked. "For affording me a second chance. For revealing what a real family represents for her," he expressed. Leaning into his shoulder, I experienced genuine safety for the first time in years. "We achieved this together," I whispered, "and will persevere every single day for her." Beyond the horizon, the sun set on another day in our newfound existence, a life forged through struggle and determination, a life we incessantly protect, one where our daughter experiences love void of fear. That justification alone rendered every struggle, tear, and difficult decision worthwhile.